Good evening, Tatiana. Welcome to class.
Good evening, teacher. Thank you.
How are you doing? What's the
Uh,
weather like in your area?
uh, everything well. Uh, but here in where I live is raining. Uh, so it probably, I don't know, probably I will have some connection issues because when it's raining, I usually have problems with my network, but
Oh, me too.
hopefully not.
Oh, yeah, it's raining a lot. I thought the power would go out, but it hasn't yet, so let's hope it won't. All right. Okay, I guess we can get started. So tell me, how are you doing with your unit process with the exercises? Are you doing great?
Yes, great. Just I had some like gaps with an exercise about I think was like matching uh the meaning of, for example, agenda, calendar, that kind of stuff that was kind of confused for me. And it stays like because it made sense for me, the matching that I was doing, but then I got like zero in the answer. And then I try trying to searching, one by one the meaning to
Mhm.
be sure.
Exactly.
And and then yeah, I got the right results, but for some reason that exercise take me more time than I thought.
But did it make sense to you after you did your research and
Yes,
you were
it makes
able?
sense.
Mhm.
Probably because most of them, well, for example, the calendar one, it was okay, but you know that when you do the exercise in the platform, if
Mhm.
you don't complete like everything with 100%, you will get like zero for score. So I was like, okay, I don't know which is wrong. So
All right.
that's why it's like more time and but yeah, at last I was able to complete, and some of them was like similar.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right. I'm glad you were able to do your research and that I know it took more time than expected, but as long as you're happy with your results, that's all that matters. And also understanding the new meanings. I know there are a lot of new words in this unit. I have I have checked the exercises and now in the unit we have started, there's plenty of new vocabulary.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's see. So we're gonna start talking about the last unit. That's the given a presentation part. We are finally in unit 2, week number 3, so time flies. So let's see. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we are going to discuss some tips for giving presentations tonight. So let's start by discussing a little. Let's see. So can you help me read question 1?
For sure. Um, do you ever have to give presentation at work? How do you feel about doing this?
Mhm. Do you ever have to do it?
Yes. Sometimes I need to do like a demo
All right.
uh, for
Uh-huh.
a future, and I usually, well, I mean, I feel like the first time that I did, I was kind of nervous, but now
Okay.
since I have like more experience, I feel when I had to explain something or show some steps in the demo, I feel more confident, and I usually how do you feel? Well. Basically, yes. Just feel secure since I know the product, and I try to prepare for sure first the presentation, like
Exactly.
to myself, and so try to prepare before they present the present the PowerPoint, for example, and yeah.
Sure. Actually, that's part of the most important things to keep in mind when giving a presentation, knowing the product or whatever it is you're talking about, because it makes you look confident. Like if you're not confident, that's because you don't know what you're talking about. You're worried about many parts of your presentation, and it can take it can take you to delivering a bad presentation. So great. Let's see. So how often would you say that you have to give presentations at work?
Mm, I think, well, it is not often, like probably uh one per, I don't know, two each, like 2 months. It's not like frequently, because we usually have meetings like to discuss like as a team, about the product in general. But it is
Okay.
not like frequently that we show like presentation. For example, recently we developed something that was new, and for example, my boss asked me to prepare like information, and at the moment I'm still waiting to see when we plan to to show, to go through the steps, but it is not happening often.
So you would say once once every 2 months, you said,
Yeah,
right?
probably, yeah.
All right. Okay. Very good. So it's not that often, but you are used to it because this is part of what you have to do at work. Great. Let's see. So this takes us to our second question. And this one is, what tips can you share for giving a presentation? You kind of already did it by saying some things that you do, and actually that's what you're supposed to do when you deliver a presentation. So what would you say are some of the most important things, like giving some advice to somebody else? What are some of the most important things to keep in mind for giving a presentation?
For sure. If we talk about the document that you plan to present,
Mm-hmm.
probably don't chart too much with information, just take the most
Right.
important ideas in order that you can guide there, and then
Mm-hmm.
probably use like images and videos, uh, like things that that will not like boring the public, the person who will see in your presentation.
Exactly.
And
Uh-huh.
also it is important that to define a time. If you say like I will take 15 minutes, you need to respect the time,
Mm-hmm.
and for sure prepare before uh doing or sharing the presentation. Prepare by yourself to see, uh to in order to be sure about what you will be saying, and feel more like secure. Well, that helped to me,
Exactly.
to feel more confident, and yeah, I think those are like the most important for me, that I usually, well, that I always take care when I need to prepare a presentation. And I think it's more easy when you know the public, to who you
Mm-hmm.
will send the well, your presentation. And
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, just that.
Great, great, great. Actually, you know what to do. Um, and that's right. When you have control over the information that you're sharing with others, then you know exactly what part what parts of the presentation you're going to cover first, what's going to be the next step, and how you're going to keep on moving during the presentation. Great. And also, those details that you mentioned about not putting so much information in your slides if you're using a PowerPoint presentation, for example, and also using visuals, images, and graphics is also good because it keeps the audience. We're gonna call the people who are paying attention to you. We're going to call them your audience. So it keeps the audience engaged. You see, paying attention to what you're doing. Wendy, welcome to class. So
Hi, good evening.
hi. So just to let you know about what we're doing, we're finally talking about presentations because this is the last unit in our module. And we are going to, well, the reason why we're studying presentations is because your very, very final task in this module will be given a presentation. So I'm going to explain all that next week. Or by the end of this week. Let's better do it by the end of this week, because the last two classes that we're going to take, we will spare them for a presentation of a topic that you feel comfortable talking about. So I will give you clear instructions on that homework assignment by Friday this week. Okay, so oh, someone else joined. Let's see. All right, Rodrigo, welcome to class. So we're discussing unit 2 already. This is week number 3. We're talking about giving presentations. And we will keep talking more about them. So let's see. So right now, we're going to watch a video, okay? And the video covers 7 tips for great presentations. So what we're going to do right now is just to pay attention to the video, okay? So pay attention to the video and take notes of the tips, okay? So this is all I need you to do. So pay attention to it and take notes of the tips because we will discuss the video afterwards. Are we okay so far? Yes?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Let me know if my screen ever goes, if it ever goes green or if the audio gets ruined because it's raining. And
Yeah, it's
and
visible and audible. Yeah.
all right, okay, thank you. Let's see. So is the audio good so far? Let's see. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, here we go.
Hey practitioners, today I'm going to be teaching you, with the help of my friend Dana Bluen, the top 7 tips for a great presentation. Dana Bluen is an entrepreneur currently living in Bangkok, Thailand, where he is a co-founder and CEO of a company called Mango Labs. Anyways, here's some of his tips. We all have to give presentations at different points in our life. That might be for school or work or an organization that you are involved with. No matter where we give the presentation or to who, we want to make sure that it has the impact on the audience and that it's memorable. These are 7 tips that are going to ensure that you nail the presentation and leave a lasting impression on your audience. Number 1, know your audience. The first step in preparing for any presentation should be to get a better idea of who your audience is. Knowing your audience will allow you to understand the type of content they are going to be expecting with regards to depth and technical detail. You wouldn't want to give the same presentation to a group of high school students who are interested in entrepreneurship that you would to a room full of startup founders and CEOs, because their expectations and level of understanding will be on completely different levels. Dig up as much as you can about who your audience is, what industries they work in, and what positions they generally hold. This allows you to really tailor the content and delivery of the presentation in a way that will really make it stand out and be memorable. Too many times, people give killer presentations at one venue to a group made up of their core audience and then bomb on the same presentation to a different group because they didn't make the changes they needed to better address the new audience. Just because you kill it in one audience doesn't mean the same exact content will replicate the reaction with all audiences. Number 2, use structures to build on ideas. If you stand up and give a presentation and all the points you want to make are just tossed around randomly and they don't make any sense, not too many people are going to enjoy your presentation. And if they remember it, it's likely that it's not for the reasons that you want them to. However, if you structure your presentation in a way that each section builds on the one before it, you help your audience connect with the content and create logical links between the concepts. This is a great way to make more complex ideas easier for the audience to understand and remember. Number 3, use visuals. Another great tool to cement those ideas in the mind of your audience is to use visuals like charts, graphs, and infographics to illustrate and communicate a concept. As many as 65% of people are considered to be visual learners. So if you don't take this approach in your presentation, you are going to ignore the vast majority of the population. Using an image, regardless of if it's a picture, graph, or chart, can be a much more potent conveyor of information and has a much more powerful impact on the audience. A single image can convey so much information. Just like the old saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. It really is. Think of the impact this can have when explaining data or results in a presentation. If you had to stand there in front of your audience and go through every data point verbally, it can get bad quickly. And this is much more common of an occurrence than you might think. But if you're able to visualize that data for your audience with a graph or chart, you instantly make it much more understandable and memorable. Showing someone 200% growth with a graph is much more exciting than explaining it while they're looking at the raw data. For example, if I took away the screen of this video and all you saw was black, it wouldn't be near as exciting. Number 4, repetition is your friend. Having a bit of structure in your presentation goes a long way in keeping the audience engaged because they can follow the information from step to step. But even more than just structuring the flow of the presentation, you also want to build in repetition. This encourages people to remember the key points of the presentation and helps it stick, which again makes it and you more memorable. A classic way to go about repetition is something Dana learned early on when he started his public speaking career. Another speaker at a big regional tech event came up to him after a talk and complimented Dana on his delivery and the depth of the material, but asked why he didn't use more repetition. Dana was a bit stumped because he never really thought about that before. The other speaker suggested that Dana start telling the audience what it is he wanted to tell them, just to give them a brief rundown of the key points. After that, move right into the body of the presentation and tell them exactly what was highlighted at the beginning, but obviously with more detail and extra elements that you add in to make the presentation stick. Then end the presentation by telling them what you just told them, reminding them of the key points and a brief summary for final repetition. Using this technique helps to reinforce the main points of the presentation at least 3 times, at the beginning, middle, and end. The key is to find a way to do this that it feels natural and not overly scholastic. And that takes practice, which we'll talk about later on. Tip number 5, have a story to tell. The difference between an average presentation that people zone out of and a great presentation that keeps them engaged is how you convey the information to the audience. A great way to convey the information or key points of your presentation is to use a story. By using a story, preferably an interesting one, you get your point across and you're creating a moment in the presentation that is memorable and easier for the audience to recall later. It's also hopefully going to be something that catches their attention, pulling them into what you were saying. One of the keys here, though, is that it has to be a story you can tell with commitment, and it has to be true. Always be honest with your audience because if you're not, they will know and you will have lost all credibility. Tip number 6, be relatable. Being relatable is actually one of the most important factors of your delivery. You want to be someone that your audience can relate to, that they would feel comfortable with talking to. Even when giving a talk as an expert on a topic, you want the audience to feel the relation. It helps them mentally engage with your content and remember you and your talk. Most people don't feel comfortable going up and talking to a stern authority figure, and no one wants to listen to someone with no confidence. So there's a fine balance you need to strike, and here's how. The most important thing you can do to come across as more relatable is to be authentic. Be yourself. Another great way to accomplish this is to work on coming across as relaxed, which can be difficult if you're not used to presenting, but this goes a long way to helping people see you as relatable. The final way you can be more relatable is to be enthusiastic about your presentation. Your enthusiasm will transfer to your audience. And now that you have enthusiasm in common, you will begin to see as more relatable. If you can get all 3 of these techniques mastered, you will be well on your way to making it to your audience relate to you. Tip number 7, build your confidence with practice. This might be the last tip, but it is by far the most important one out of these 7. Confidence in what you do is by far the most important element of your presentation. Having confidence adds an authority to everything you say during your presentation, but you're not going to develop the confidence you need if you don't practice, and practice a lot. Whenever Dana gives a talk or presentation, he practices. He says for hours. Dana wants to make sure he has the timing down, that he knows every slide so he doesn't have to read off them. He knows what the next slide is so he can smoothly transition between them so that he will sound natural and authentic, and can explain the concepts and tell the stories with confidence. And this all comes with practice. When you are practicing a presentation, it's not enough to sit in front of your computer and go through it. You have to practice it in front of other people. Invite some friends over and have them give some feedback on your presentation and make improvements based on their feedback. No one gets it right the first time, but practice will get you towards perfect. With these 7 tips, you should be able to put together and deliver a masterful presentation that will wow your audience and make sure that they remember you and your topic. If you guys like this collaboration, be sure to check out Dana's YouTube channel.
Let's see. All right. So are we ready to talk about the tips, or would you like to watch the video for a second time before we have our discussion? Are we good?
Yes, I think we
Yes.
have to.
Yes, we are. All right.
Yes.
So give me just 1 second. I need to share my screen real quick. Oh my gosh, where is it? Okay, it's right here. Okay. 1 second. Okay, we're good. All right, so. All right, so these are some tips to keep in mind in order to give a great presentation, a presentation that will be memorable, that people will pay attention to. So what are some of the tips that we heard in the video? Let's see.
I thought that it's important to know our audience.
To know your audience. Great, very good. Why is it important to know our audience?
Yes, because in that way you can be prepared about the content you will be sharing. Like, for example, if the audience is technical people, so yeah, you can prepare in that way. And even and if the audience is like a business and that kind of audience, it's something that you need to prepare like charts and something strategic for this kind of audience.
Exactly. Well said. Exactly. We need to adapt to the audience that we are talking to. Exactly. If we're talking to people who are professional, so our vocabulary needs to be professional as well. And also, if you're talking to people that are interested in certain topics that you know they might be paying attention a lot to, then that's the type of topic that you would have to choose. If this is not a business presentation that you're given, right, you would have to choose a topic that keeps people engaged, because that's part of their interest. Let's see. So what would be the next tip that was covered in the video?
Use visuals.
Oh, very good. We're gonna use visuals, definitely. Okay, that's the third one. But give me a hand reading the second one, Rodrigo. Let's see.
Sure. Use structures to build on ideas.
Exactly.
Structure a presentation where ideas are connected. The next idea you're developing has to be connected to the one before it.
Exactly. So since we have a specific topic that we are going to talk about, ideas need to be organized well, so that you don't look like you're all over the place, like just saying information randomly. You want to look organized, and this is also going to make you look like you're having control over the information that you are sharing with your audience. So Rodrigo, help me talk about using visuals.
Yeah, using visual, I think it's very, I mean, it helps to that the presentation be dynamic and not boring, just reading a lot of text, or that your presentation is, I mean, it's all white and black with a lot of text. So the visuals using like graphics, images or GIFs, I don't know, something to help the audience to be, let's say, entertained.
Exactly. So my question for all of you is, why did the guy in the video say that visuals are very important? What's this thing about visuals? Why do visuals keep the audience's attention into what you're saying?
He presented a percentage that the 75 of people are visual learners. So yeah, it's the idea that the audience is more oriented to see graphic charts instead of many text, as Rodrigo was saying. So they get to avoid this kind of presentations.
Exactly. There you go. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you explain something to someone and the person doesn't understand what you're saying because they need you to draw it or to show them a picture? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, it's something that I can say I have experience. Yeah.
And has that ever happened to you? Like maybe sometimes people are explaining something and you're like trying to picture it in your mind so that you can get the idea?
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. So this is why, because most people are visual learners. We need to see an image or we need to look at information in order to help our minds picture the situation, what is going on. Let's see. So the next one is repetition is your friend. Let's talk about this one. What do you remember from the video?
I
This one
think
goes to Annie.
it, well, it is, important like to have like a division and make sure you are like reminder the most important point, like by, I don't know, like doing uh, like a conclusion, for example, and remind what you already mentioned, so you can remind that those important points.
Exactly. We want to keep people's minds in track of what we're doing. We want to remind them of the reason why we're talking about the topic and what the topic is. So we can do it in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Any other comments about this one before we move to the next one? We're good. Wendy?
And also the repetition is because even if you are helping with the memory of the audience, but also I think it's good for you to, well, maybe it's not in the presentation, but when we were discussing in the previous topic about when you have a call, for example, and you repeat the information you get, is the important that you are ensuring that you got the idea right. So, but in this context, is to help the audience with the present a brief to remember the main points of your message. I think that's
Exactly.
the point there.
Exactly, like what you said, like in a call, right? When you're assisting a customer and you said, okay, this is what I previously did, and this is what's going to happen next, and this is what you can expect. So it's pretty similar. Very good example. Now, we're moving on to the next one. The next one is have a story to tell. What did you guys get from this part? What does it refer to?
I think when you, for example, give like an example of what you are talking about, is more memorable for your audience, and you can like give a real example of what happened, for example, to you or friends, and then based on what you are talking about.
Exactly. And why do you think that when you tell us a story to someone, it is more memorable? Why do you think that?
Because you are saying that, well, you are like, hey, this is what happening. This is, a real thing that could happen in, well, of course, that will depend on what you are talking about.
Exactly.
But for example, if you are talking about, I don't know, technology, and you can give a real example, for example, how to use, will be like, okay, I got that idea because I can see that it really, in a real example.
It really works.
Yeah, it really works. So then you have like, you got the attention of your audience, basically.
Exactly. We are interested in hearing from other people something that is true, because sometimes we can apply it later on in something that we want. If people are talking about a product that somebody else has tested already, then that makes us get more interested into buying a product, or ending up taking the decision of testing the product because somebody else has already done it. Or if we're talking about people's experiences, life experiences, then we can relate to them. We can say, oh, that happened to a friend of mine, or that happened to me as well, and then we feel more connected. Let's see. So what?
And also,
Yes.
you know, and I think that is good, you know, to include stories in your presentation, because it happened that in the public someone says, hey, that happened to me as well, you know. So I
Exactly.
feel like identify, so you can like do a click with your public.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Would anybody else like to provide some comments before we move on to the next one? All right. All right. So, do you remember what the next one is? So far, we have covered 5.
Sorry, be relatable.
All right. What's that about? What does that one mean?
That was related with the to be authentic and enthusiastic with your public, like show you as a that, you know, it is important. Well, will depend, but usually when you do a presentation, can be like by a platform like Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
Teams, or face to face. But I think that in both cases, it is important that you can see, you know, you can show your enthusiasm with your public, because if you are like, if you show like you don't want to be there, you know, to
We can
show,
tell.
yeah, so your public will be like, well, I will prefer not to be here.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so exactly. So how do you, for example, now that you have brought that topic of presentations over platforms such as Zoom, for example, how do you think people can tell if you're not being enthusiastic about the topic that you're talking about? If they cannot see you, how do they notice that you don't know, that you're not prepared, that you're not confident?
It's your voice, yes.
Exactly. Very good. Your tone of voice, right? It's the same thing as over the telephone. We can tell when somebody's angry, when somebody's happy, when somebody is nervous, enthusiastic. We can all tell what's going on with that person, even though we cannot look at him or her because of their tone of voice. So let's move on. So when we are giving a presentation, in order for us not to sound like we are nervous or like we don't want to be there, we need to be ready. We need to know the vocabulary that we're using. We need to know the topic well. If it's a product that we're talking about, we need to know the product well, because that will show because of the way you are talking in your presentation. Then we have build your confidence with practice. What's this one about? Can you tell me? What did the guy say in the video? Do you remember?
Well, I don't remember exactly the words, but I think it's connected with the idea that you were saying about, for example, in the previous point, the be relatable. If you're using some platforms like Zoom or Teams, anything like that. So the idea is like if you want to be to get people engaged and share a clear message and get feedback from your audience, I think the best tool is practice.
Exactly.
So, yeah, basically that you will be natural and authentic in the way that you feel that you can handle the topic. And if you will receive any questions, you can give the answers to the audience in the way that you are enough prepared.
Exactly. When you practice previously to a presentation, it gives you time to think in advance. For example, you will know exactly at what moment of your presentation you're moving on to the next topic. You can also have a chance to time yourself, like to see how long you're taking in order to explain one piece of the information. And this works, for example, if in the case that you have to stick to a very limited time, for example, if you have like 20 minutes only for your presentation or 30 minutes, so that will allow you to time yourself to see if you can actually stick to the amount of time that you have been given for your presentation. And also, like you said, exactly, most likely people are going to ask you questions afterwards. So this can give you an idea what type of questions they can ask you, and you want to be prepared for answering those questions for sure. Very good, guys. So do you have any comments to make before moving on to our next piece of information? No comments. All right. Very good. So, okay. So now we know 7 tips for our presentations. This is not new information for us. I know you have done this several times, so you're experienced. We're just having a discussion about it because of homework purposes, because this is going to be, like I said before, our last evaluation of the module, and we want to be prepared for that. So this takes us to a very important point on how we can keep the audience engaged. How can we make a great impact at the start of our presentation? So I'm going to show you a very short video. This video is about 2 minutes. So we're going to watch it, and then you're gonna let me know what the video is about, okay? We're going to discuss it. So let's watch this video for around 2 minutes, and here we go.
It always strikes me how people think about their presentation.
Let me enable the subtitles here. Okay, here we go.
And so how they prepare their presentations. I'm actually talking about the first words, the first sentences of a presentation. What most people do is they think of a presentation, so automatically you think about a PowerPoint. So you make your slides. You look at your slides and you think about what will I say showing each slide. But my question to you is this: what are your first words? What are the first sentences? Very few people think about that. Just think a minute about the presentations that you have already seen in the past, maybe the presentations that you have done yourself. There is a cliche sentence that most speakers use to introduce their topic. They say something like, good morning, good afternoon, my name is, if they don't know you. And then there is this typical sentence, today I'm going to talk to you about. Now you might say, so what's the problem? The problem with this sentence is that you're actually answering the wrong question. You're answering the what question. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk about. If you think about it, most audiences know what you're going to talk about. Either you are introduced, or there is a program, or there is a meeting, so there is an agenda, so people know what your topic is all about. The most interesting question to answer is the why question. Why are you there to talk about this topic? And even more important, why is it important for the audience to listen to you? So my advice for you is to focus on the why question. Now, how can you do that? I advise people to focus on a story to begin their presentation. Now, if you think about stories, stories begin with a time frame. Just look at fairy tales. They start with once upon a time. I'm not going to suggest that you start your professional presentation with once upon a time, but you can start with a time frame, something like yesterday, 2 weeks ago, last year, 3 months ago. Now, what's the kind of story that you can share then? Use real stories. It has to be something that happened to you. It has to be something that you heard. So you can refer to a conversation you had with a colleague. You can say something like, yesterday I had a conversation with, But then there has to be a reason why you refer to that conversation. And there is this linking sentence that I use in lots of presentations. I tell my story, and then I continue saying, now, why do I tell you this? Because my objective or my goal with this presentation is to. So what you can do is be very conscious of the company stories, I might say. It can be something that happened with a customer. It can be an article you read. It can be something that you heard about. It can be a conversation you had. So use these stories to begin your presentation, link them to your goal, and it will be so much more interesting for your audience because it will be crystal clear for them from the very first minute why it is important to them. So next time you prepare your presentation, focus on that why question and tell them a story.
All right. How are we supposed to start a conversation, not a conversation, a presentation with impact? How are we supposed to do it? Based on the video.
Using the why questions and telling a story.
Very good. So she said that we usually start a presentation saying, my name is, and I'm going to talk to you about, and then we introduce the topic. So what's the problem with saying that, according to what she said?
And that you are focusing on the what.
Exactly.
And that is like a pretty, it's obvious based on the agenda that also you are showing. Yeah.
Exactly right.
It's a common mistake. Yeah.
All right. So what would be a better suggestion to starting your presentation so that you don't have to say, I'm going to talk about? What would be better? So you,
yeah, to say of what are of why are you there? Why what is the thing you are going to say, or well, to explain or to present? And yeah, just answer the why of your presentation.
okay, so in order to answer the why you're giving that presentation is related to starting your presentation with what type of information? With?
Objective, purpose.
Oh, one more time, please.
With the objective of your presentation.
And what's the piece of information that we can start with? Do you remember this thing that people can be interested in, that they can relate to, and that they can remember because it's interesting?
To tell them a story?
Very good. We want to start with a story, right? Exactly. Okay. So we want to start with a story, or what else can we start with? What else, if that's not a story? What else could it be? Do you remember? It's okay if you don't. All right.
No, I didn't get it.
It's okay. No problem. Okay. So let me share my screen. Okay. So we already covered these. So I start my presentation in a strong way, telling a story, by telling a story. We can also use a quotation from an influential person, like the quotes we have seen here in class. You can use somebody else's words, the words of someone who's famous or who everybody knows, or that most likely your audience will know who said it, because this provides a subject context, situating the topic culturally. Now, you can also ask a rhetorical question. Do you remember what a rhetorical question is? It's okay if you don't. What type of questions are those? Let me see. Let me give you a hand. Okay. So what is a rhetorical question? Tatiana, can you help us read?
A rhetorical question is a question that is asked, but it is not need to reply. For example, who doesn't like chocolate?
Okay, so you say, who doesn't like chocolate? Of course, I don't expect you to answer my question, because I am inferring that everybody loves it. So based on the meaning of a rhetorical question, which of these questions from A to E are not rhetorical? Which are not rhetorical?
What
The
your
first
name?
one,
I don't know.
letter
Oh,
A.
letter. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Letter
The
A.
first one. You said the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
the
can
first one.
we can answer that question, right? What would be
Yes.
another one that we can answer that therefore is not rhetorical?
Letter D.
Uh-huh, right, exactly. So these two are not rhetorical because we can answer them. But rhetorical questions are questions that um, where you are expressing your opinion, making it sound like it's a question, but there really isn't an answer to that. So you see, you can say, "Do I look like I was born yesterday? Are you crazy? How many times must I tell you not to do something?" There is no number that you can use in order to answer a question. So you could start your presentation using rhetorical questions as well. But the most effective one is a story, or you could also, you see, you could also share an anecdote, you see, that's something that happened to you or somebody else. Or you could also share information that you read, you see, information from an article. You see, this works as well. Or you could also talk about a conversation that you had with somebody else, like saying, so the other time I was talking to my best friend and he said something funny to me, and then you can relate that comment to what you are going to speak about in your presentations. So this very part over here takes a lot of imagination. You have to find the way to make the information at the start of your presentations fit the topic that you are going to explain or talk about. Now, the last part of our class right now is the following. I'm going to play a video for around 5 minutes, let's say. And what I need you to do, and this is the last thing we're doing, I need you to identify, look, I want you to identify how the speaker, you see how the speaker starts, you see? How does he start? And I want you to tell me, you see, if you see any of the tips that we discussed previously. You see, like, does he look confident? Is he connecting his ideas to the next one? Is he covering any of the 7 steps that we checked? So these are the 2 things we're doing. Are you ready? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. So here we go. I'm going to mute my microphone. No, your microphones, and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this person is giving a talk, a TED talk, and his topic is how to fix a broken heart. Okay, this is what he's speaking about. Now, English subtitles are enabled. Here we go.
At some point in our lives, almost every one of us will have her heart broken. My patient Kathy planned her wedding when she was in middle school. She would meet her future husband by age 27, get engaged a year later, and get married a year after that. But when Kathy turned 27, she didn't find a husband. She found a lump in her breast. She went through many months of harsh chemotherapy and painful surgeries, and then just as she was ready to jump back into the dating world, she found a lump in her other breast and had to do it all over again. Kathy recovered, though, and she was eager to resume her search for a husband as soon as her eyebrows grew back in. When you're going on first dates in New York City, you need to be able to express a wide range of emotions. Soon afterwards, she met Rich and fell in love. The relationship was everything she hoped it would be. 6 months later, after a lovely weekend in New England, Rich made reservations at their favorite romantic restaurant. Kathy knew he was going to propose, and she could barely contain her excitement. But Rich did not propose to Kathy that night. He broke up with her. As deeply as he cared for Kathy, and he did, he simply wasn't in love. Kathy was shattered. Her heart was truly broken, and she now faced yet another recovery. But 5 months after the breakup, Kathy still couldn't stop thinking about Rich. Her heart was still very much broken. The question is, why? Why was this incredibly strong and determined woman unable to marshal the same emotional resources that got her through 4 years of cancer treatments? Why do so many of us flounder when we're trying to recover from heartbreak? Why do the same coping mechanisms that get us through all kinds of life challenges fail us so miserably when our heart gets broken?
All right. 1 second. Let's get rid of this ad. Let's
In over
continue.
20 years of private practice, I've seen people of every age and background face every manner of heartbreak. And what I've learned is this: when your heart is broken, the same instincts you ordinarily rely on will time and again lead you down the wrong path. You simply cannot trust what your mind is telling you. For example,
All right. We're going to pause the video. All right, and let's get ready to discuss what tips were you able to identify during his talk? Let's see. How did he start it, for example?
Yeah, I think I noticed that he started the speech with a story about one of his patients, and then introduced the topic that he wanted to share with the audience.
Very good, very good. Anything else? Anything else that you were able to identify during his talk?
Well, he used also a phrase. I don't know if it is a catchy phrase that everyone's will have a broken heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can call it a statement, you see?
Statement, okay.
Statement. It's something that is true and that you can see everywhere and that everybody knows. Very good. Exactly. He used a statement. Anything else? He didn't use visuals, of course, but what else did he apply in his speech? Were you able to see anything else?
Yeah, I think he was repeating the same story from different angles.
Exactly. What was that word he was saying all the time? Do you remember?
A broken heart?
Exactly. He was saying a broken heart, and he was also saying keywords, we can say. He was also saying heartbreak, because that was his topic. Very good. Great. Okay, so we were not able to see the whole speech, but we were able to see a part where we would see him applying some of the tips that we covered tonight. Do you have any comments before we end our session from tonight?
Teacher, I have a quick question. It's not related with this topic.
Oh, sure.
The last Friday I couldn't join to the class, so I was wondering if you gave us some homework for this week, or is the one that you were mentioning to
Yeah, no. We just have one assignment. What I said today is that I'm giving you feedback of the one we have already submitted this Friday. And I'm also going to give you guidelines for the second homework assignment and for the final evaluation, which is going to be your presentation. But yeah, we don't have any other assignment yet.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, guys. So if you have no more questions or comments about tonight's session, we're going to leave it here and we will continue tomorrow. Are we okay with that? Yeah?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So it's nice to see you all the time and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.